Well, it's now time we go straight to the dailies. And for review today, we have 5 papers. As usual, we have The Guardian, will definitely be guiding us through. The Punch, The Vanguard, The Nation, and These Days will definitely wrap things up. But you do always understand, we love starting with the Punch and see if we have a puncher right there on the front page of it. And indeed, we do. Well, anyways, federal government may seek Ekpan's repatriation after Finland 6-year jail term. You know, he was convicted on terrorism charge just on Monday, and indeed the federal government is already seeking for his repatriation. But let's see if we take some riders to that. Government will take further action against judgment review, according to the Attorney General of the Federation, ruling warning to extremists. And you can see the information minister saying that out loud. But I'll just implore you to go to page 2 of the Punch, and indeed you get all that concerns terrorism trial. But anyway, that's there. Let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And let's quickly go to the bottom-most part. Let's start with the bottom then. Strike threat, resident doctors give federal government a 10-day ultimatum. And you can get that story on page 42 of the Punch. Very disturbing one on page 5. A 60-year-old arrested for raping Lagos lady. And somebody will wonder, 60-year-old committing crime, how many years is remaining for him to serve his term? But anyway, just read that story up on page 5. Oyetola blames wooden boat as accident claims 92 lives. And well, it's a quite a disturbing and sad one, seeing the loss of life of Nigerians. But I'll just implore you to get more of that story on page 21. But let's see if we take some other major stories, especially at the topmost of the Punch this morning. Dangote fuel export surge amid foreign refineries shut down. And don't shut that down, but go get more of the details on page 28 of the Punch. 2027, PDP obedient tackle Wiki over Jonathan on Obi is a screamer on page 2. Nigerian embassies hit by unpaid rent, salary arrears. Well, you can get more of that story on page 3. And one you can also get on page 20 is $600 million monthly diaspora remittance, proof of reforms. And the federal government seems to be patting itself on the back and telling us it looks as if the reforms are working. But anyway, I'm doing my work here, and let's see if we go straight to the picture of the day. And the picture of the day is that of the president himself. The vice president is there, and some members of the Federal Executive Council meeting as they celebrate with the vice president of Colombia. And we're talking about Vice President Francisca as she celebrates well, her birthday yesterday, more like a reception for her at the State House in Aso Villa. Well, you just talk about beautiful intercontinental relationship and Nigeria foreign image as it concerns that very celebration. Well, that's the much we can take from the Punch.
All right, let's go to The Nation. The Nation has at the top story, Obi's return to run in 2027 with kill PDP, says Wiki. The writer to the story says a comeback by him can't happen. Be wary of hypocrites, Minister cautions Jonathan. Well, that story is on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Okay, let's see, just slightly above the major story, legal giants experts. How lawyers can stand tall. Well, you can see that on the legal section at on page 15 to 19 of the Nation. Still at the top, NSA, Kaduna government knock El Rufai overpayment to bandits claim. The writer says don't drag national security institutions into a Persian conflict. Well, that story is on page 2 of the paper. Yes, at the top mass, federal government hails a 6-year jail for terrorist Ekpa in Finland. Of course, we'll be doing this on Trending today, so you don't want to miss it. Ex-IG Arshe flown back from Morocco in coma. That story is on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Tinubu reaffirms oath to serve fairly, still on page 2 of the Nation. FIRS seeks global action against cross-border tax crime. That story is on page 8 of the Nation newspaper. Let's see if we have more. Yes, at the side mass, Nigeria, Colombia targets aviation trade deals. Well, you can read that full story on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Let's see if we have more at the bottom. As a president celebrates loyal deputy, dependable partner Shetima at 59. Wow, that's on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. And the picture of the day, just like seen on a Punch newspaper this morning, it's about the vice president of Colombia paying a courtesy visit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at his presidential villa in Abuja yesterday. Well, that's all we're taking on the Nation this morning. Let's see what the Guardian has for us today. Yes, the major story here says local carriers struggle as foreign airlines rake in $1.7 billion from Nigerian markets. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Okay, just still at the side, Mass Finnish court jails Ekpa 6 years for terrorism fraud. That story is on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper. How integrity character stopped Wike from eyeing 2027 presidential bid. The story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Yes, at the bottom, mass APC state government El-Rufai trade words over insecurity in Kaduna. That story is on page 29 of the paper. Bago dissolves a Niger cabinet as Alia reconstitutes in Benue. That is on page 29 of the paper. Nigeria to reallocate dormant oil blocks, signs new production sharing contract. It's on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's go to the top mass. Federal government sets up committee to address foreign missions debts. That story is on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. A CSO laments state defiance of Supreme Court's ruling on local government allocations. You can read that on page 3 of the paper. Federal government urges traditional medicine practitioners to standardize products. That story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. All right, the picture of the day, well, we have a graph here, is about the 2025 weekly foreign airlines flight frequencies report. Well, that's all we're taking on the Guardian this morning. So let's go to this day. Yes, the major story here says, courts, Jonathan can run for presidential election. The writer says in response to Keyamo, Jonathan's office releases a 2022 court judgment affirming ex-president's right to run again, but says he is still consulting. The full story is on page 9 of the paper. Let's see if we have more here. Yes, Nigeria hails Finland's conviction of Simon Ekpa on terrorism-related crimes. The writer says it's a major victory in fight against terror. Chief of Defense Staff Fagbemi applauds ruling. Learn from Finland. NBA RULAAC tells judges and prosecutors. Lawyers tax government on security, welfare of citizens. Well, to read that full story, you have to go to page 9 of this day newspaper. Let's see if we have more. Wike, I will bet on Tinubu winning 2027 election. Well, that's on page 49 of this day newspaper. Yes, just at the top. Mass Tinubu, no Nigerian is second-class citizen. Retreats every region being carried along in his government. The writer says he's on oath to serve all Nigerians, not a particular section. Well, you can read that full story on page 9 of this day newspaper. LCCI presidentials, Brazil, Japan diplomatic missions are trade prospects worth exploring. That's on page 8 of this day newspaper. And for the picture of the day, it shows the signing of a production sharing contract, that is the PSC, between the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, and the Total Energy at the Septro Consortium in Abuja yesterday. Well, that's all we'll be taking on this day today. Up next is the Vanguard.
Well, on the Vanguard, the leading story reads, Jonathan Tukiyamu Odikalu, keep off my political journey. It says, keep off my political journey. I don't need your counsel. Jonathan 100% qualified for race, says Azibola, ex-president cousin. He's being deceived. Fidi Obi will spell doom for PDP. Sorry, I didn't say so, but Yusuf Wike seems to be having that view. And I won't run for president. Note El-Rufai calculation about Tinubu wrong. Nigerians, not APC or PDP, will decide 2027, says Atiku. Well, that's the major story right there on the front page of the Vanguard. At the sidemasts of the Vanguard this morning, Nigerians in South Africa mobilized for Super Eagles against Bafana Bafana. And you do know that game must be a win for us to have any slim chances of qualifying for the World Cup. But anyway, we'll definitely qualify on it. But let's see if we take some other leading stories just at the top mast of the Vanguard. And there, a major one there. NUPRC, NNPC, Total Energies, Sepetro will seal PSC deal on 2 offshore oil blocks. And the major one you can get on page 20. Empowerment of bandit. Federal government tackles El-Rufai's claim baseless. And you can get more of that story on page 14. Terrorism. Federal government's chief of defense staff orders held ICPA conviction in Finland. And right after that, will take further action against him, says the Attorney General of the Federation. Our court should expedite hearing of terrorism cases, according to the Nigerian Bar Association. But anyway, get more of that story on page 11. Let's see if we quickly get some other major stories, especially at the bottom-most part of the paper. A power-hungry politician seeking to remove Tinubu presidency seems to be telling 9. Childhood cancer. Wow, 400,000 children diagnosed annually. And this is a disturbing story coming from the World Health Organization on page 9. Botched agreement. Resident doctors stressing nationwide strike. Just like the lecturers, it looks as if we're going through another cycle of strikes on page 19, or 13 rather. Rivers local government poll, Obi Labour Party condemn election. Go to court. IEC tells aggrieved parties. And you can get more of that story on page 12. But let's see if we still have some other leading stories right there. You can get more of the Niger Delta reports on page 18 and all of that. But the picture of the day is that of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a warm handshake with the vice president of Colombia yesterday when they gave her more of a special reception at the presidential villa in Abuja. Well, anyway, that's the much you can take from the Vanguard and also from the dailies this morning. And well, indeed, we seem to have varieties of interesting topics or headlines right there on the dailies, and especially as it concerns what seems to be happening when it comes to that of terrorism. And do remember, we'll be looking at that definitely on trending, and we'll be looking at that and seeing if it's in the right direction. But also, we also saw in the papers a lot of issues as it concerns the economy. We're talking about the ritual of petrol and recent signings, especially as it concerns energy deal in the country. That will be more profitable to all of us at the end of it. But anyway, that's the much you can take from the papers and indeed on this segment on Viewpoint on Atlantic TV.